Welcome to Miss Maya Talks. This is a podcast designed for my 7th grade science students. Today on the podcast, we are going to be talking about living things and the environment. Living things and the environment. As the sun rises on a warm summer morning, the Nebraska town is already bustling with activity. Some residents are hard at work building homes for their families. They are working underground, where it is dark and cool. Other inhabitants are collecting seeds for breakfast. Some of the town's younger residents are at play, chasing each other through the grass. Suddenly, an adult spots a threatening shadow. An enemy has appeared in the sky. The adult cries out several times, warning the others. Within moments, the town's residents disappear into their underground homes. The town is silent and still, except for a single hawk circling overhead. Have you guessed what kind of town this is? It is a prairie dog town on the Nebraska plains. As these prairie dogs dug their burrows, searched for food, and hid from the hawk, they interacted with their environment and surroundings. Habitats. A prairie dog is one type of an organism or living thing. Different types of organisms must live in different types of environments. An organism obtains food, water, shelter, and other things it needs to live and grow and reproduce from its environment. An environment that provides the things an organism needs to live, grow, and reproduce is called a habitat. One area may contain many habitats. For example, in the forest, mushrooms grow in damp soil. Salamanders live on the forest floor, and woodpeckers build nests in tree trunks. Organisms live in different habitats because they have different requirements for survival. A prairie dog obtains the food and shelter it needs from its habitat. It could not survive in a tropical rainforest or on the rocky ocean shore. Likewise, the prairie would not meet the needs of a spider monkey or a hermit crab. Biotic factors. To meet its needs, a prairie dog must interact with more than just the other prairie dogs around it. An organism interacts with both the living and non-living parts of the environment. The living parts of a habitat are called biotic factors. Biotic factors in the prairie dog's habitat include things like grass, plants, seeds, and berries. The hawks, ferrets, badgers, eagles that hunt the prairie dogs are also biotic factors. In addition, worms, fungi, bacteria are also biotic factors that live in the soil underneath the prairie grass. Abiotic factors. Abiotic factors are non-living parts of an organism's environment. They include water, sunlight, oxygen, temperature, and soil. Water. All living things require water to carry out their life processes. Water also makes up a large part of the bodies of most organisms. Your body, for example, is about 65% water. Plants and algae need water, along with sunlight and carbon dioxide, to make their own nutrients in a process called photosynthesis. Other living organisms depend on plants and algae for food. Sunlight. Because sunlight is needed for photosynthesis, it is an important abiotic factor for most living things. In places that do not receive sunlight, such as dark caves, plants and algae cannot grow. Because there are no plants or algae to provide the needed nutrients, few other organisms can live in such places as well. Oxygen. Most living things require oxygen to carry out their life processes. Oxygen is so important to the functioning of the human body that you can live only a few minutes without it. Organisms that live on land obtain oxygen from the air, which is about 20% oxygen. Fish and other water organisms obtain oxygen that is dissolved in the water around them. Temperature. The temperatures that are typical of an area determine the types of organisms that can live there. For example, if you took a trip to a warm tropical island, you might see colorful orchid flowers and tiny lizards. These organisms could not survive on the frozen plains of Siberia. Some animals alter their environment so they can survive very hot or very cold temperatures. Prairie dogs, for example, dig underground dens to find shelter from the hot summer sun and the cold winter winds. Soil. Soil is a mixture of rock fragments, nutrients, air, water, and the decaying remains of living things. Soil in different areas consists of varying amounts of these materials. The type of soil in an area influences the kind of plants that grow there. Many animals, such as the prairie dogs, use the soil itself as a home. Billions of microscopic organisms, such as bacteria, also live in the soil. Levels of organization. Of course, organisms do not live all alone in their habitat. Instead, organisms live together in populations and communities, and with abiotic factors in their ecosystems. Populations in 1900, travelers saw a prairie dog town in Texas that covered an area twice the size of the city of Dallas. The town contained more than 400 million prairie dogs. These prairie dogs were all members of one species or single kind of organism. A species is a group of organisms that are physically similar and can mate with each other and produce offspring that can also mate and reproduce. All the members of one species in a particular area are referred to as a population. The 400 million prairie dogs in the Texas town are one example of a population. All the pigeons in New York City make up a population, as do all the bees that live in a hive. In contrast, all the trees in a forest do not make up a population because they do not all belong to the same species. There may be pines, maples, birches, and many other tree species in the same forest. Communities. A particular area usually contains more than one species of organism. The prairie, for instance, includes prairie dogs, hawks, grasses, badgers, and snakes, along with many other organisms. All the different populations that live together in an area make up a community. To be considered a community, the different populations must live close enough together to interact. One way the populations in a community may interact is by using the same resources, such as food and shelter. For example, the tunnels dug by the prairie dogs also serve as homes for burrowing owls, black-footed ferrets as well. The prairie dogs share the grass with other animals. Meanwhile, prairie dogs themselves serve as food for many other species. Ecosystems. The community of organisms that live in a particular area, along with their non-living surroundings, make up an ecosystem. A prairie is just one of the many different ecosystems found on Earth. Other ecosystems in which living things make their homes include mountains, streams, deep oceans, and evergreen forests. The smallest level of organization is a single organism which belongs to a population that includes many members of the same species. The population belongs to a community of many different species. The community and abiotic factors together form the ecosystem. Because these populations in an ecosystem interact with one another, any change affects all the different populations that live there. The study of how living things interact with each other and with their environment is called ecology. Ecologists are scientists who study ecology. The part of their work, ecologists study how organisms react to changes in their environment. An ecologist, for example, may look at how a fire affects a prairie ecosystem.